One thought on every game in just a second here with NFL insider Casey Joyner, the footballscientist.com, as of course the divisional round is in the book, so we're down to 2 more weekends of football. We got the championship weekend. You can hear the games right here on 97.3 ESPN. The fallout from these games, we'll get Casey's take on them now here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Casey, welcome back, pal. How you been?
It was a fun weekend, a lot of interesting ball games. It's not as quite as great of a divisional round as some past years, but still some fun football.
Yeah, I mean, there was certainly a lot of storylines now moving forward here because we have some injury issues to kind of deal with. But, let's look back at the matchups and take a look at what we saw. One thing is interesting, when you move forward with these games from Saturday, I guess, the early game there, that kind of started the whole off. It kind of set the tone for the weekend here. And, it's funny because we were really expecting these great games. That was the one game, I guess, that really we talked about the defense that the Rams brought there, and you saw how big of an impact not having Donald really healthy. But, man, I think this Green Bay team, if you didn't believe in them or you're kind of like last year we weren't sure, I think that was the answer for you there, that this Green Bay team's a little different.
They are, and the thing is it's look at the teams. Look at Green Bay. Let's power run the football. Let's look at Kansas City. They're having to run the football more often, and you're seeing Tampa Bay. Even Bruce Arians was quoted in the Peter King article from this past weekend, this morning, where he said, "Hey, people say we like to throw the ball deep." He said, "You know what we like to do? Punch people in the mouth first." I mean, you realize power football is alive and well in the NFL, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that. But the Packers right now, if you're talking about power football and offense, they're easily the best because the things they were doing, they were running the ball almost at will, it seemed, against a powerhouse Rams defense. Yeah, they're missing Donald, but they've got a lot of talent on that club, and they got a great defensive coordinator, and the Packers were still just basically saying, when we want to get 5-6 yards on the ground, we can just do it.
Yeah, well, you take Donald out, it's almost like, wow, someone made an adjustment and said, they're weak there, let's change. Let's go right after that weak spot. You don't see that much. Some of these coaches are so stubborn.
Yeah, you do, and that's the thing. Coaches will tell you, if you talk to run game coaches and such, I'll tell you, look, if you're looking to attack a particular, hey, your 3 technique is weak, great, we'll run these sorts of plays and go after them. We could do certain things. You can actually, people think about targeting and saying you're going to go segment a particular play in the secondary. Hey, we're going to go throw at this cornerback, we're going to go throw at this safety, they can't cover well. You could do the same thing in the running game. It's a little more difficult to do, but you can do it. And Green Bay just showed, though, that's the thing, though. It wasn't like this complex offense. They were doing a lot of things with sets and formations and such, but still, it was just basically, all right, we're going to run inside zone, we're going to run outside zone, we're going to run mid zone, and we're just going to keep pounding this football at you. And then when you get up there and try and stop us, we're going to hit deep to Lazard, we're going to throw to Adams, and that's it. And it's not the most complex formula, but it works, and that's the scary thing for the other teams. If you know what they're doing and they can still do it, that's a frightening feeling.
A couple of years ago, the Rams were this offensive juggernaut. McVay, he was the hot coach. They stripped his staff away from him. What's going on with the L.A. Ram offense and McVay and what he was able to do early in his career?
I think we're seeing the same thing you're seeing in Philadelphia, where the quarterback hit the ceiling. And everybody had the question after they signed Goff to the extension that, really, you're going to make him that guy? You really think that's it after that Super Bowl game? And I know it's Belichick and the Patriots defense and all, but man, he looked like he'd hit a ceiling. And I guess when you see the quarterback hit the ceiling, maybe the offensive coordinator or head coach, or maybe they see it and go, well, hey, we think there's a higher ceiling. But a lot of people around when you see around the league and you see analysis of these teams, or Goff, you were thinking, he doesn't have the higher ceiling than that. That where he's at is where he's at, and that's a concern for them. And that's why I think the Rams are, his McVay's post-game comments. Is he your quarterback? He's your quarterback for now. Like, they're looking at possibly going elsewhere too, because you can only get so far with a great defense and a good running game if your quarterback just can't keep up. Because you can't have a quarterback who turns the ball over a lot, and you got to be able to hit big plays, especially inside this one days. Because the best quarterbacks today are going to throw 20-plus touchdown passes inside the 10-yard line.
All right, the divisional game on Saturday, it was Buffalo-Baltimore. We thought maybe this one had some fireworks. Not so much. Dominated by the Buffalo defense, really, and low-scoring affair. Josh Allen, only 200 yards. But how was Buffalo able to shut down Lamar Jackson and dominate this game?
I think that they literally concentrated on Jackson, it looked like, whereas a lot of teams trying to stop the running game. I think they basically said, look, if you want to run the ball, if you want to get the ball to Edwards, you want to get the ball to Dobbins, fine, you can go ahead and do that. And we're going to contest you on that, but we just want to make sure that we do everything we can to stop Jackson on his running plays, to limit things in the passing game. The passing game is already eliminated with the wins anyway, but I think that's part of it. I think teams are realizing now, especially during the playoffs, that the more you make the Ravens, you make them try and make them Lamar Jackson-centric, as crazy as it sounds, when you make them that way, they're kind of easier to stop because you can do things to limit what he can do if you play certain types of defenses. And I think that's where, which is a big thing. He tends to get frustrated in the big games. And I think Buffalo realized all that. And in fact, when I heard Jackson saying, or reportedly saying before the game, that he didn't want snow, never played in a snow game, and you see all the wind, if you know the opposing team's quarterback is saying, I really don't like this weather, that's probably a good sign for you.
Yeah, I know a lot of people talking about the game plan. How come there's not more creativity in the passing game with Baltimore? They need a better go-to receiver. They got a lot of decisions to make in this offseason about what direction they want to take that offense.
Because the more you go to power football, it's one of the things I was thinking about just the past couple of days about the Eagles when we talk about them going to more power football. I say, okay, let's go ahead and get that sixth lineman in the game and all that. The more you do those things, you're going to limit the number of things you could do downfield because the more people you apply to the ground game, you can only do so many things downfield. If you've got extra linemen, extra tight ends who really don't catch the ball, and you only have, say, 2 or 3 receivers going downfield, you can't run 3-by-1s. You can't run 2-by-2s. You can't run the certain route combinations. You can't run very effectively. There's certain things that you're limiting just by the nature of your personnel and your set. You're limiting the nature of what you can do, and that's where Baltimore is. And mind you, hey, I'm a big proponent for power football, but there's a cap to what it can do, and you've got to be able to hit some vertical passes. And Baltimore hit that cap even before that game. I think you're right. They need to find a way to get more verticality to their passing game because they've got to diversify at least a bit.
Kansas City 22, Cleveland 17. It was a close one. It was a lot tighter than I think some people. The line was like 10. It went down to 8. I mean, you lost Hilaire, but I think a lot of people thought Kansas City at home would take care of business. We found out a couple things about Cleveland. What are we finding out about Kansas City?
Right now about Kansas City, I still think that they can't stop the run very well, and I was shocked, not just surprised, shocked that Cleveland wasn't trying to run the ball at them more often, that Cleveland was trying to put the ball in the air. I believe I'm looking in the third quarter, and they had like a 3-2 ratio of passes to runs. And I know part of that was the score, but man, Kansas City they do 2 things badly on defense. They don't stop the run very well, and they're the worst red zone team in the league as far as allowing touchdown percentage. So I think Cleveland didn't get into that sort of contest. In fact, I think Cleveland would have been better suited to try and go at the ground game, would have had a better chance to turn the game into a track meet. And Kansas City does not want to get in the track meets. I'll say this about Kansas City, though. They also have found a way on defense and partially by running the ball some on offense. They're finding ways to slow games down and protect their defense because they had allowed 100 or more yards on the ground. I believe it was 7 of the first 9 games of the season. They've only allowed 2 since then, and it's just something that they're concentrating on. They know they need to keep getting in the lower scoring contest. So being a low-scoring game helped them, and Andy Reid in that last pass, too, that just shows you, hey, Big Red is awesome.
And then Cleveland, of course, their season comes to an end. But if you were kind of looking at them and questioning them, I thought it was interesting. Someone said to me yesterday, hey, this Cleveland team really changed when Odell Beckham went out, and maybe for the better.
Yeah, it did. Well, that should be a power. That's what they are. They should be a power running team, and they should do certain things in the passing game, and that's who and what they are. And you saw what happened against Pittsburgh. They were able to punch Pittsburgh in the mouth. They've gotten back to that, and that's a big thing for them. Is you've got to be able to show that you could do that sort of thing. They still need to get some more verticality. Having said that, Kansas City has some really good players in their secondary. Snead is a terrific corner. Doesn't get talked about enough, and they've got some top-notch players in their secondary. And I don't think Cleveland had quite enough firepower to go in that direction. But yeah, Cleveland still needs to be able to keep up like that. But Cleveland was too Jekyll or Hyde this year, though, too. Either get into big shootout games, get into big track meets, or they get into low-scoring games. And I think that they need to find a middle ground there because as good as they are right now, you don't want to have that kind of a Jekyll and Hyde feel. You want to be who you are. And sometimes I got the sense that who they are would change every week.
Last game of the weekend, 30-20, Tampa Bay on the road, upsets New Orleans. Brady, he was just okay, threw for under 200 yards. Breeze, though, 4 turnovers in the game, and that's really the difference.
Breeze, early in his career, people would talk about Breeze and say he's a good game manager. Look, he's got this. And I would go back and look at the tape and go, do you have any idea how many risks this guy takes? He is a gunslinger. He's not. You don't think he's Brett Favre because he doesn't have Brett Favre's arm, but he was that type of a risk-taking gunslinger, and it worked because he had a good enough arm, and he was very smart about when he was going to take chances. He just took so many that would lead to a lot of interceptions. I thought, boy, that aggressiveness, it worked fine for him in certain circumstances. Last couple of years, been saying for a couple of years now that the Saints are a run-heavy team. They did not want to be a Breeze-centric team because they knew guy probably has about 500, 550 passes per year in his arm total. We don't want to wear him out. We don't want to be take him out when he's got 100 pitches like with a starting pitcher in baseball. You got to make sure you don't wear this guy down. And as this season progressed, it seemed to show, even after the injury and he came back, he's just not quite the same quarterback. And I think Tampa realized that and started to play more aggressively than usual to say, hey, we lost a turnover battle 3-0 each of the first two contests. If we win the turnover battle this time, we think we win. And, they got 4 turnovers. So that was the big difference is I think they knew Breeze was limited and they were more aggressive because of it.
Yeah, and I know Todd Bowles in for an interview today with the Eagles. How impressed were you with his game plan? Was it that game plan that really impressed you, or was Breeze really that bad?
I like his game plans. I like his aggressiveness on defense. His teams will stop the run. They absolutely will stop the run. It's going to be a concern for Green Bay this week because Tampa, if they, what did Rex Ryan used to say, if I want to stop the run, I will. Well, Todd Bowles can say the same thing. If I want to stop your running game, I can do it. And it's easier said than done in a lot of cases. So I love that about him, that he can do that. He does get some creativity, and he gets his playmakers on board early with White and Murphy and the guys they have in their Murphy Bunting in their secondary. He gets the young players and gets them to play well. So I think you can give him a young team and he'll develop them. So those are some of his strong suits. No, not that's a perfect fit for what the Eagles have right now, but depending on what they want to be in the future, he could be a good fit.
Josh McDaniels, would you think he would be a good fit for Philadelphia?
I always take the tack that Dr. Z took on his New Thinking Man's Guide to Pro Football. He's the famous Sports Illustrated writer, and he said that if you went back and looked at coaches who had a second go-round, who would have a first chance at being a head coach, and then if it wasn't successful, the second time they were head coach, they weren't successful either. Like, you proved yourself the first time around. It wasn't like baseball where a manager can kind of like make the rounds, and the second and third opportunity suddenly get the right situation and win. In football, you just kind of knew off the bat. I keep thinking back to McDaniels in Denver, and he had that good start, and then it just kind of went south. And I'm like, I just don't know what's changed between then and now, and that always sticks in my head that he'd have to be an exception to that rule, and he'd just have to really blow somebody away in an interview to really get over that hump.
All right, Casey Joyner's back on Friday with one thought on both championship games. Probably be more than one thought, but you get the drift. He'll be back to break down both of those games on Friday's show, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline at KC Joyner TFS on Twitter, and of course we'll talk to him Friday. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, Mike.